So, when you talk about victims, I really want you to know that we all share the grief and we all share the responsibility to push on our provinces and territories to do better on all of our behalfs in partnership with the work that we're doing today. Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that I find it actually really, really distressing that we're going to weaponize grief in this room.
For 15 seconds here. Thank you. I share your grief, but we also have a duty and responsibility
I'll make sure that you get the additional time.
Greetings, everybody. Aaron here at Canadian Looney. We've got a very interesting committee investigation. The witnesses are Patti, Hajdu, Jobs Minister, and Stephen MacKinnon, who's the House Leader of the federal government, I suppose, and filling in for Chrystia Freeland, who took off to launder your tax dollars to the Ukraine. That's what she's good at. My goodness. Let's take a look at the committee meeting and let me know, Liberal voters, jump in the comments. Tell me what you think. Are you just naive or are you trying to sabotage your own children's future? Because that is what these Liberals, the entire cabinet, the whole backbench, all of them are doing. They're all on board to ruin your children's future. Look at how they act in front of the cameras, which aren't shown on CBC, CTV, Global, any of the legacy media. They hide it because they don't want even the naive Liberal voters to see it because they are so apparent and disgusting. They're weasels, all of them, lining their pockets with your tax dollars, screwing over your future, your children's future, everything that was Canada. Let's take a look. This committee meeting gets hostile very quickly. It never goes back on the rails once it comes off. Let's go. Let's take a peek.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
Oh, yeah. And to start us off today, we have Mr. Albas. Mr. Albas, the floor is yours. You have 6 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, ministers and officials, for your service to our great country. Minister MacKinnon, Canadians are dying on the roads, and it seems that you're spending more time keeping your government safe than Canadians safe on the roads. What do you say to that criticism?
I haven't heard that criticism.
You just did.
Okay, well, what I can tell you is that I am a full-time Minister of Transportation. I spend an inordinate amount of time worrying about rail safety, road safety, air safety, and the multitude of issues, infrastructure issues, other issues. This issue on which I was proud to collaborate with my colleague, Ms. Hajdu, with the labor program, with whom where I have a special acquaintance, and I was able to help orchestrate some of the improvements last spring that you saw in this issue. So a lot going on, Mr. Albas, and we look forward to more.
Actions speak louder than words, and the old saying is, if you don't have time, you give money. So what investments in road safety will be in the budget? And if you can't give concrete examples today, will you at least commit to putting a firewall around any cuts that you need to make to any safety program under your portfolio?
Well, I can assure you there'll be no compromise on safety ever. And I can tell you that I can point you to the $77 million that will be in the budget. Won't be in the budget if it does not pass, unfortunately, but will be in the budget that will make this vast improvement, we think, to the trucking regime in the country.
There's that House Leader role again. Minister, National Safety Code 16, the requirements for a Class 1 driver's license for extra-provincial driving right now is a recommendation. We have a patchwork system in this country with varying standards. Why is it not a law for extra-provincial? That's an area under your direct responsibility, sir.
We have a collaborative system in this country in terms of transportation. Some parts of it are exclusively provincial. In fact, you could argue that the heavy half of regulation of trucking is found at the provincial level. Certainly enforcement is found at the provincial level. And where we collaborate is nationally. So it's not necessarily, in many cases, a federal system, but a national system through the CCTMA or others where we collaborate and establish standards. and in all events.
Minister,
this
a
needs to
safety
be a
fitness
collaborative.
certificate. A safety fitness certificate is set by you as the Minister of Transport through the Motor Vehicle Transportation Act. I hope you take this suggestion seriously. I'm going to pass on my time.
Thank you for being here, ministers. My question will be primarily focused on with respect to Minister Hajdu. First of all, I understand that Minister Freeland, former Minister Freeland, was quite popular amongst colleagues, and we've invited her, and she's yet to show up. So maybe you could mention the fact that we'd love to see her at Transportation Committee. Next up, I'm glad to see, in all seriousness, that there's some acknowledgement of the problem that's been created over the last 10 years. That there's finally been acknowledgement that over the last 10 years, the Liberal government has mismanaged the immigration system and the TFW system, and that they've mismanaged the CRA to the extent that both the misclassification and the TFW program have led to numerous fatalities on our highways. And I'm glad to see there's some acknowledgement of that. But what my concern is, over 10 years, we have seen this problem get worse and worse and worse. In fact, we saw the Insurance Bureau came and they told us that there's been 80% increases. There have been people died in my riding because of your government's failure to manage the TFW program and the classification of drivers. So I'm glad to see that there is an acknowledgement of that. But I want to dig down and see if we can get some results here. What is the date that the Drivers Inc. problem will cease to be an issue in Canada? Give me that date.
Well, I mean, first of all, look, as I said in my speech, this began with a deregulation that allowed for this practice to flourish. And so that actually happened under the Harper Conservatives in 2011. And over the years, the program, the process began to multiply. So we've actually, as of today, announced that we are reversing a moratorium on T4As. This is something that the Trucking Alliance is pleased with. Obviously there are lots of efforts to streamline doing business in this country, but sometimes we have to take a step back and realize that some regulations really matter, and this one evidently did. I would also say that the licensing and the training of truck drivers is firmly in the lands of provincial jurisdiction. And that's why this partnership with provinces and territories is so important, because we can't actually get to the infractions from a driving capacity licensing way without the provinces and territories.
According to the Insurance Bureau, we've seen an 80% increase in accidents in Ontario and 88% in Ontario or in Alberta. We've seen over 80% in Atlantic. This is a national problem. We would love to have some national leadership. So I'm going to ask you again, at what date will the Drivers Inc. issues cease to exist in Canada?
Well, I think we're actually getting somewhere, because what we have not only done is send a strong signal through the industry, but also crack down on individual companies, small, medium, and large, that have
Minister,
used this
we're
practice.
trying to schedule a meeting to have the victims here. Unfortunately, your party is filibustering that. They're unwilling to listen to the victims. The victims, it's cold comfort for them to hear that we're making
the
some
drivers that have been misused? Is that the
victims as well? Sure, absolutely, as well as those who have died on our highways because of your government's inability to properly classify drivers and to handle the TFW program in a sensible manner. They would find it very cold comfort to hear we might be making progress someday. At what date will the Drivers Inc. program cease to be an issue?
Well, we hope that it will cease to be an issue immediately, and that's the work that we're doing to invest in the tools that we need to catch these bad actors. And today's announcement goes a long way. Announcement goes a long way to sending a message throughout the industry that we are taking even further measures by sharing information back and forth between ESDC and CRA, by working with provinces and territories in a deep collaboration. I would say we all share this deep grief that you're talking about. I mean, we've all known people who have lost their lives. I live in Northern Ontario. Highway 1117 goes through my riding. In many places, only 2-lane. We've invested $70 million towards doubling the lanes, in my riding, and I expect that we work in partnership with provinces and territories to continue that work to make our roads safe. So it's an issue of infrastructure, it's an issue of investment, and it's an issue of cracking down on bad drivers. And we need the provinces for that, by the way, because if someone is licensed to drive in this country and they don't actually have the skills to drive, they're putting my son's life at danger, who is also, by the way, a licensed AZ driver, who is on the roads hauling equipment back and forth from job sites. So, you know, when you talk about victims, I really want you to know that we all share the grief and we all share the responsibility to push on our provinces and territories to do better on all of our behalfs in partnership with the work that we're doing today. Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that I find it actually really distressing that we're going to weaponize grief in this room.
For 15 seconds here. Thank you. I share your grief, but we also have a duty and responsibility to these victims.
Get the additional time. I want to make sure that next I'll turn the yours. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to both the ministers for appearing this morning. First to you, Minister MacKinnon, just in your testimony, and notwithstanding the fact that I agree with you that our grocery shelves are full of goods because of transport, our truckers, I'm also going to equally say that probably because Canadians can't afford food. But that's just a point of interest. Minister, on October 7, 2025, this committee heard compelling testimony from witnesses who described the Driver Inc. model as, quote, the crisis that is destroying the trucking industry, causing carnage on our highways and robbing our social network of billions of dollars each year. Minister, just honestly, yes or no questions, please. In your capacity as Minister of Transport, have you met with Ontario Minister of Transportation about this crisis?
Mr. Sarkaria and I have communicated back and forth, and our offices have. We will continue to obviously collaborate with Ontario. We have, as you can imagine, a number of major issues with Ontario that we want to solve together, and we'll do that. But I've visited your riding. I've visited the greenhouses in your riding. I've visited the temporary foreign workers who work in the greenhouses in your riding, and the owners of those greenhouses who say that they could not possibly survive without those temporary foreign workers. And I just want to ask you, though, Mr. Lewis.
I had a very, very brief question.
I want to ask you, Mr. Lewis, do you approve of the stereotyping of temporary foreign workers that your colleagues just went through?
Minister, have you had any discussions?
It's an honest question for you.
Have you had any discussions? It's my floor. Thank you, Minister.
In your part of the world, you produce food.
Mr. Chair, colleagues, if I could just ask everybody
you're a breadbasket
one at
for
a time,
Canada, Mr.
just
Lewis.
for the benefit of our interpreters who are having a very hard time trying to figure out what to translate.
Minister, have you had
Mr.
any
Lewis,
discussions with Felix Fung?
So I'm going to add 15 seconds.
Thank you very much. Minister, have you had any discussions with Felix Fung, the Assistant Deputy Minister of Transportation on the CCMTA, regarding this crisis?
Well, I just want to finish off on my earlier
I would ask you questions, yes or no.
Sometimes
Please,
you got to
Minister,
take a stand.
yes or no?
Sometimes you got to take a stand, Mr. Lewis.
I'm taking a stand right now. Just yes or no.
Do you approve of
so
your
the answer is no. Have you met with any of the boards of directors from CCTMA about this crisis? Do you approve of your colleagues' stereotyping of temporary foreign workers who are vital to the employment base in your riding and to feeding Canadians? So the answer is no. Okay. Thank you for that, Minister. So let's talk about my riding of Essex. And quite frankly, I know about the bread basket of Essex. You don't need to remind me. And thank goodness for those greenhouses, because they certainly put a lot of food on Canadians' table, but also on Americans' tables as well. And because of the price of food, thank goodness that they do that. My riding of Essex is next to the busiest international border crossing in North America. And earlier this year, a truck driver lost its load on County Road 42 and Banwell Road in my riding of Essex. But because you visited it, you must know exactly where it's at. There were tons and tons and tons of safety violations. Minister, what does Standard 16 mean?
I assume that you've spoken to Mr. Sarkaria about those safety violations.
What does Standard 16 mean,
Minister? So that he can talk to his colleagues in law enforcement.
So what does Standard 16 mean? Do you know?
Well, the first thing, if you're interested in solving the problem, Mr. Lewis, I suggest that Mr. Sarkaria,
so Standard 16,
perhaps I could introduce
you, sir. So you don't know.
And Mr. Sarkaria and I will talk to you about law enforcement on those highways that I've been down. I've visited those greenhouses. I've talked to those workers. I've seen those packaging plants. We're very proud of that industry in Canada.
As you should be.
That is an incredible industry
so
with
Standard
incredible
16,
entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Minister. So Standard 16, let me just read it for you, means entry-level training class 1. What drivers must be trained in, like vehicle inspection and driving practices. Now, at least you're aware. Last question. How much time, Mr. Chair?
You have 1 minute left, sir.
Thank you very much. My next question is for Minister Hajdu.
Mr. Lewis, you agree that driver certification is a provincial responsibility, surely?
Well, I would suggest that because it's interprovincial, which is why my next question is for Minister Hajdu.
Would you like us to federalize that issue? As Mr. Sarkaria
and by the way,
signed off
and
on
I've
that?
heard you speak about Highway 11 and Highway 17, and I know that area very, very well. I spend a lot of time up in that area. Minister, we had some testimony back a couple of weeks ago. Just got to find my note here, Minister. There we go. On October 7th, one witness, Johan Couture, Executive Director of the Women's Trucking Federation of Canada, testified before committee. I don't feel safe. I don't want to use routes 11 and 17. In light of this testimony and similar concerns raised by other women who appeared before this committee, do you have a response you would like to share with Ms. Couture and the woman who expressed fear for their safety on these routes?
Well, I would echo that fear. I'm driving down that road this weekend for an event in my very large riding, and I will tell you I'm very glad that there's no snow on the road, and there are times where, as a member of Parliament, I actually cancel visits to small communities in my riding because 1117 is the only route in, and there are portions of that road that are extremely treacherous. Now, the good news is that Ontario and Canada have invested in widening the road and increasing lanes, and in those parts, the safety obviously has increased. But that work has to continue, and I would suggest that, the federal government can be a strong partner in those infrastructure priorities that provinces are setting, not just obviously for safety, which I think should be our primary concern, but also for the economy of our country. And you will know, having traveled those roads, that actually there are ports that road that if it shuts down the trade for the entire country.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister.
Oh, yeah. I personally find it very confusing how any liberal voter, I'm sure you're naive, it's okay to be duped. I've been duped. I voted for Trudeau in 2015, believe it or not. So it was a big mistake. I wasn't watching or paying attention then, but I have been paying very close attention since 2023. And let me tell you, these guys don't care about your future. They want your money in their pockets, your future, your kids' future, your grandchildren's futures in their pockets. See what they're doing to Canada with immigration. See what they're doing with housing. Check out what they're doing with our health care. What is better than it was in 2015? Absolutely nothing. It's confusing to me. On a lighter note, my name's Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. I work very hard at this channel, and believe me, I'm not a conservative. I will be voting that way. It seems to be the only way to get out from underneath this liberal conspiracy to destroy our way of being. And if you think I don't want to admit that I was fooled or that I was raised liberal, so I'm still a liberal, change it up, because they have no plans for your future except lining their pockets with your tax dollars, laundering that money, spending it in other places. So Mark Carney, Justin Trudeau, all these hack bullshit ministers can get richer on your coin under the guise of being incompetent or negligent. It's not that. They mean to be doing what they're doing, and they're pulling it off. There is no future for Canada under this government. So I watch all the committee meetings. I watch everything that happens in the House of Commons. I also follow the propaganda-driven news of the legacy media that is paid for by this government to dissuade your mind into some kind of trick to think that they're doing it for the benefit of you. It's not for you. Liberal voters, I'm speaking right to you. please watch the politics, not the news. Like, watch the independents on YouTube. Do anything other than what you're doing, because if you're still being duped and not aware that you're being fooled, that's a huge issue. We do have an election pending in the late fall, early winter. We'll see. Anyhow, my name's Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe. I work very hard at this channel. Believe it or not, I spend 12 hours a day, 7 days a week at this, because it takes a lot of time to watch all of the politics. But that is where you get your real information. So I would appreciate your subscription. I know that a lot of people that watch this channel, 60% of the people that watch my channel aren't subscribed. I need you to subscribe. I'd like you to subscribe. I'm asking for that because this stuff is so censored on YouTube, which is a part of legacy media, that it's hard to get any kind of word out. I know that there's other platforms. Just go to that. I know that a lot of people, liberal voters, watch YouTube, and I'm hoping they'll catch some of this and become informed. Learn a little more, because again, it's not a liberal conservative thing. It's an evil versus good thing. I'm not a conservative. Like, I will be voting that way because we need to get out from underneath this elephant that keeps squashing us. It's ridiculous. Please like, share, subscribe, get notified. Come check out one of our live shows. We cover Canadian federal politics right there. And I think you'd enjoy our chat room. It's the best that I've seen online. And I take a peek once in a while to see what the other YouTubers are doing that are pulling the rope in in our direction, or against the Liberals anyhow. And none of those folks have a chat room that's as enjoyable as ours. That's it, Aaron. Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video. We're going to wrap it up right here. Out for now. Thanks for watching.